Welcome to Not Your Average Breakdown podcast, where my friend Alex and I come together to discuss current events and a variety of topics. I admittedly do not enjoy sifting through the news, so I trust Alex to do the heavy lifting of research. And together, we bring you insightful discussions that break down issues at the highest level, so you can consider yourself in the know along with me. How we doing, Alex?
Hi, Claudia. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Great, considering I just got a really special invite this week that I've been waiting
Ooh,
for.
Ooh, what is it? What is it?
Oh, you know. This week, I got Alex's official wedding invitation.
Because otherwise, you wouldn't know that you were invited.
Oh, no, I wasn't coming until I got it. And this thing, as we've been discussing, it's taken 3 weeks to get to me. And I told Alex that if I didn't get one delivered to my mailbox, I wasn't coming. And just to let you know, I'm the maid of honor.
Yeah. Just a tidbit there.
You've been down a girl, but that's okay.
I would have killed you.
I know. But I love to keep you in suspense.
I gotta make a correction to your intro because you said you don't like sifting through the news. But I feel like since we started recording this podcast, you got a little bit better at it.
I do. And you know what about that is that I actually am very intentional when picking my topics because it has to at least interest me, or I can't sit and do this and be genuine about it. So we need this to be an accurate reflection of what we actually do in real life. So yeah, I mean, and you know what's cool to me is that a couple of people have asked me recently about our podcast and asked me for it. And I said, well, I need to make a recommendation. And the recommendation is that you need to listen from the very beginning because we build on topics. So, once we started rolling, the information gets bigger and broader. And I like that we've built upon what we've started. So, we cover topics now that integrate everything that we've talked about, and it makes the conversations for me deeper, and it gives me more confidence because I know what I'm talking about. Whereas before we started this, I still was kind of going about life not as dedicated as finding out what's happening around us.
True. And I feel like the topic that we picked for tonight really plays into the overall theme of our podcast, right? It's, empowering knowledge and just sparking interest for people to read beyond the headline, to read beyond an Instagram story or a Facebook post or what their cousin told them at a Thanksgiving dinner table. And I think the topic really plays into several topics that we covered previously in our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little political, but it's also a little dramatic, and it's a little it involves a little bit of everything. So it's a little political, it's got some celebrities involved. So it hits me on a few different levels. So it excites me in a different way. At that point, this week's topic that we're covering is about celebrities getting tricked into political propaganda on the platform Cameo. So, Alex, let's start with what Cameo actually is.
So, Cameo is an online platform where celebrities can be paid to record you short messages. And usually, people use them to pay celebrities like Snoop Dogg or Lindsay Lohan. She's like one of the biggest users of Cameo to wish you a happy birthday or, your loved one or your friend.
Can I ask you if Ryan Reynolds is on this platform? Do you know?
I don't know. I actually don't know which celebrities use it, but I think a lot of them do. So you might be in luck.
My birthday's in August. I just want to put that
Okay.
out
I
there.
just I just took a mental note. Don't worry. But yeah, so you can hire a celebrity. All of them are there, I would assume, because money is money, and if they can make money, they will. Essentially, that's what Cameo is used for. And so the topic that you picked, I decided that I wanted to talk about it, and from our private discussions that I sometimes turn down a topic if I don't feel like covering it that we can do it in a unbiased and objective way. Or sometimes I just feel like there's not enough material that we can cover it in a podcast,
Yep.
which it doesn't mean that we're not going to cover it at all, but currently that's just not the case. But I really wanted to talk about this because this is something that we can potentially start seeing in the US elections that are approaching in November of this year. We already know that propaganda has been a huge influence on elections since 2016.
Oh, it
And
gets ugly.
exactly. But, we've seen that through a couple of lawsuits that happened with Facebook, especially with 2016 election, where it was believed that there was some Russian interference in the 2016 election. Obviously, 2020, we were still talking about that, January 6th, and all of these, insane claims that the elections were stolen and so on and so forth. So all of that is part of propaganda. You see it all the time. And you and I talked maybe yesterday or a few days ago, and I told you that I deleted Instagram app on my phone. And
Which you know really bothered me today because I wanted to send you 10 memes and I could not. So we need to address that at a later time.
so my account is still active. You can send it to me. But I deleted the app because I just started being exposed to so much propaganda
I get it.
on my account that it just became too much, and I was like, okay, I need a little detox. But it's a real thing, and people get very emotional about it. You see it all the time in comments. People make videos, TikToks about it. That was the reason why I wanted to discuss this topic. The article that you sent, he was talking about a Moldovan president, Maya Sandu. Essentially, a couple of celebrities were duped into making these videos, like Lindsay Lohan. She was paid, I guess, to read from a teleprompter, essentially saying, like, calling for the president to resign.
Did she say those words?
Yes, but she said it in Russian. So probably the person that paid her to do that video, told her like, hey, can you do this in Russian? Her team probably didn't verify or translate what they gave them
Wow.
in Russian. And so she said it in like a broken Russian.
What?
She said, let's get rid of Sandu.
Oh
And she
my.
wasn't the only celebrity, but I think she was like I think like she was the biggest celebrity from the list. But there are definitely, this is not like a isolated case, right? This just is the most recent case of Cameo propaganda. The video started circulating on TikTok, and then a couple of people started noticing that the videos were altered to make it appear like they posted it on their Instagram. So, like, to make it more official, like the celebrity was requesting the
Yeah, yeah,
Moldovan
yeah.
president to step down. That is the article that you initially sent me. But we have seen this before used by Russian government. So in December of 2023, Microsoft published an analysis, I guess, of the Cameo propaganda videos, and said that there were several celebrities who were involved in a same sort of duped, hey, I'm going to pay you to make this video. So when you order the video, you can name the person that the celebrity should be referring to. And so they put in Vlad or Vladimir,
Mhm.
which is a Ukrainian president,
Oh,
Vladimir Zelensky.
yeah, I love him.
What they did is they paid Elijah Wood, Mike Tyson, Priscilla Presley, then Kate Flannery from The Office. So they were all sort of in this in this mess together, and they were paid to say, essentially sending a message to this Vlad to find help for alcohol and substance abuse, because Russian government was pushing this propaganda that Ukrainian president Vladimir Zelensky is substance abuser, and that he has a drug addiction, and that he's an alcoholic, and that he's not fit to be a president, and that all of this is, the Russian invasion essentially is Ukrainians' fault.
Do you know what this sounds like? This sounds like Russia is like a 13-year-old boy and is playing a prank. I mean, this is fucking government and war, and they're fucking pulling a prank like this. This is
Yeah.
so
This
ridiculous.
is like a classic Bart Simpson
Yes,
calling
exactly.
Mo. Is your
Exactly.
refrigerator running?
My God. Okay. Oh my God. It's like I can expect that Vladimir Zelensky didn't even respond. He's like, really? Come on, guys. Really?
Well, so this is the problem, right? I feel like we here in the United States specifically get very detached from what is happening in Eastern Europe, but over there, it's a different picture, especially Eastern Europe. This propaganda was pushed for Eastern European TikTok or social media platforms in general, right? So we didn't get a lot of traction from that, but it was specifically to target Eastern Europeans, young Ukrainians and young Russians who maybe weren't.
Influenced.
Yeah, exactly. They could push them to one side or the other. So if they were pro-Ukrainian movement or whatever, then they could, sort of push them towards the pro-Russian side if they tell them like, hey, Ukrainian president is, a druggie, essentially.
From these random ass American celebrities, it's so weird to me.
Yeah, but that is the power of celebrities that we gave them. That's the pull, like remember during COVID when all of these celebrities were making those super weird and awkward videos like stay home.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was so
Yeah.
random and awkward to me, but people were like, "Oh my god, like the celebrities are staying home. Maybe I should stay home."
Oh my God. It's so weird.
Exactly. And so I feel like, and I can definitely speak from experience because I grew up in Eastern Europe, so I know what the perception of Hollywood and those celebrities is over there. And so they are looked at something, like a demigod almost.
Mm,
And the fact that it's not the problem that they made this Cameo video online. If they didn't know, I mean, you definitely know that Lindsay Lohan is not speaking Russian,
right. Yes.
so that's not the problem. The problem is that they altered those videos and then they make them seem like it was an official statement from insert celebrity. And so they only made it to, Lindsay Lohan or Elijah Wood, which I don't mean this in any bad way, but for me, they're like a B class celebrity. Like we're
Yeah.
not talking about Kim Kardashian or, like you said, Ryan Reynolds. Those are A-listers. George Clooney, right? For me, those are
Mhm.
A-list celebrities who have a wider following and wider audience.
And they're more relevant right now, you know?
Exactly. And so if you see them, imagine you're scrolling through TikTok and then one of a sudden you see like this video that appears to come from official account from this celebrity saying like, hey, let's get rid of this president, because those celebrities speak out about
Yeah.
candidates for our elections here in the United States, right? Like they speak against Biden, against Trump, against Nikki Haley, against Ron DeSantis, like insert politician that's relevant to the election, they speak against them.
Mm.
So it's not strange that they would speak against other presidents as well.
Right, a political figure, yeah.
Exactly. And and a lot of them are very vocal about the Russian Ukrainian conflict that is happening. A lot of them are vocal about the Gaza conflict that is happening right now. It's split, right? Some of them are Jewish or Israeli and they're supporting Israel's cause, but some of them are supporting the pro-Palestinian cause. You have that mix sort of their celebrity status, but they're trying to be more activist in a way and express their opinions and call for action almost. And people do that. People look what their celebrities, how the celebrities are voting. That, like we recently talked about Taylor Swift and the NFL, right? And we joked about like, oh, it was Swifty Bowl or whatever. But the Republicans were really scared that she was going to endorse Joe Biden
Oh
that
my god.
day. And so they started this like anti Taylor Swift campaign trying to bring her down. You know, the whole deep fake with her, all of that was part of that effort to take her down. And they hate that she is recruiting more young voters than anybody ever. Okay, like she speaks so much about voter registration and voter rights that all of her, 18 to 24-year-old fan base, they all registered to vote in like a record number.
But why is that bad?
Well, it's bad. It's bad for the conservatives because she endorses a Democratic
Oh, I didn't know that.
candidate.
I had no idea.
Currently, she didn't endorse President Biden, but in 2020 she did. And so she's
Gotcha.
known to be more liberal than conservative, and conservatives don't like that. And so they were trying to take her down.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying that the liberals wouldn't do the same if it was the other way
Yeah,
around. I'm just
absolutely. But
stating
but that's what happened. Yeah.
exactly. When you have stuff like that happening, when those two things are commingled at this point, politics and celebrities, because they're trying to appeal and get more fan support, then it is not unusual to see them speaking out against presidents and foreign leaders. Seeing, Lindsay Lohan speaking in broken Russian, calling for Moldovan president to step down, you're just like, okay,
Yeah, that's how you feel. Right, that's how
she
you
might
feel.
know something. She might know something that I don't, and
Mhm.
maybe I should look into this.
What are
You
her
know,
motivations, so they start to question.
exactly. But some of them, and like the Taylor Swift example is perfect. We covered voter rights, and in that episode I really tried to emphasize that it's very important that you do research for yourself. And from our friendship that I never persuaded you to vote one way or the other. I
Mhm.
just told you, do your research, because the things that you're passionate about, that you value, and it aligns with your morals, might not align with mine. That's why you have to do your own research and figure out who you want to vote for. But when you have 18 to 22, 23-year olds who are not involved in politics the same way that we are, but they see Taylor Swift endorsing one side or the other.
They just wanna
And
follow someone.
exactly. And that's a real thing. Like, and Taylor Swift is not the only example. You have Beyonce, you have The Rock. Rock was a huge supporter of President Biden in during 2020 election. And people followed him, right? They were looking to see who these celebrities are going to endorse so they could see if they align with that and then go out and vote.
Right, they don't wanna put any of the research behind it, they want somebody to tell them what to do, and if they're like, "Oh, somebody like The Rock is gonna vote for this person," yep, that's me too.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
so
so scary.
I think because of that, I wanted to talk about this because, yes, we see this happening currently only in Eastern Europe, Moldova, and Russia in these examples. But this happens in United States, just not through Cameo recordings. It happens through people. I mean, podcasting is a great example, and I'm not trying to say something contradicting. We obviously talk about politics, but we are discussing and not endorsing candidates or political views or anything. But you have podcasts like Joe Rogan, or some other influential political figures who don't provide a lot of research. They express their opinions. They sometimes even claim something that is false. So not only do they not do research, but they also spread misinformation.
Well, that's why I like what you do because you tend to quote where you got the information from. You give the credit to the journalist or the website. So it's not you just spitting out, whatever it is that comes to the top of your mind, but it's you actually citing, like, okay, this is this was my source and it's credible. So
Yeah, and I mean, I really try to find reputable sources, and I mean, for any of our podcasts, I always keep all of my research and citations and stuff, because that's important, right? And I make sure when I'm reading articles, and like when I was doing research for this, the article that you initially sent me was NPR, which is a very credible source, and then I found an article at the Independent, which is also a very credible source. I try to find different perspectives, and it sucks because you have to do that. The other day I was on AP News website. I was just reading headlines and just trying to see what's out there. And they have a whole section and it's called fact check. And when you click on it, like it tells you things that didn't happen this week. And then
what?
they fact check like all of these claims that were posted somewhere either on social media or through another news outlet, and then they did their fact checking, said like, hey, this is false, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. And it's like I was laughing at it, but it was one of those moments like, this is what news came down to, thanks to social media, thanks to viral videos.
That's pretty cool though that they do that.
It is, but how many people,
Nobody does it.
no.
Nobody does.
I try to use AP News as much as possible because I think they have quite objective view. You can never be certain with newspapers because depending on who owns them, they might sway one way or the other. But I feel like they're pretty in the middle, and they fact check, and I love that because a lot of mainstream news outlets do not, and I hate that because they're famous and they're easy and people know them, and then they put in a lot of their trust in it, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think this topic is very important to talk about because there is a lot of propaganda happening right now, not only with our elections that are coming up, but also with the conflict in Israel and Gaza. There is a lot of propaganda, a lot of misinformation coming out from both sides. And all of that is part of this online propaganda that we're talking about, is just not coming from this specific platform.
So, but so you said that this is only happening in Europe. It's not happening in the US yet, but it very well may because we are in an election year. So I'm wondering, is Cameo doing anything about it? Have they released anything that says that like, okay, how can we change this or how can we prevent this from happening?
So I didn't find anything of that sort. I think when NPR reached out to them, that they said that they couldn't comment on any of the videos for privacy reasons. I don't know if they said that because they have an investigation open and they just legally cannot say anything.
This will
They,
probably affect what I don't know what they call them, jobs or assignments that people ask of these celebrities. They're probably going to be a lot pickier, seeing what has happened to their peers, So, I mean, has Lindsay Lohan or Mike Tyson, anybody of these people, have they released any statements of like, oh shit?
no, I mean they were sorry ass statements, but I feel like there's not much that they can do. Like they
Yeah.
can try to request back the video, because of the intellectual rights. But they said like, oh, we would never recorded this if we knew what it was. But it's also like, hey, somebody sends you something in a foreign language. Why are you not translating?
Yeah.
That would be out of curiosity.
Yeah,
I would
you should.
translate.
Yeah, you should probably do your due diligence if you're speaking a foreign language and you're putting it out there, like common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But all this, I really want to lighten up this topic because I know it's politically heavy. But I don't know. Do you know who George Santos is?
I've heard of him.
I think I couldn't remember. I feel like we covered him briefly in one of our podcasts.
You've
But
mentioned him before. What is he?
yeah, so he was a Republican congressman who got kicked out of the Congress because he was committing campaign funds fraud, wire
Yes.
fraud.
Yep, I remember this.
Remember we talked about him? He like blew his campaign money on like Botox,
Yes.
Ferragamo, lip fillers.
Listen, I'm kind of identifying with this man right now. But
this
yes, I do remember.
this man is all right. Not everything is all right up there. He's like a pathological liar. I
Mm.
was reading about him today because I'm going somewhere with this. Just bear with me.
Oh God.
So I was reading his profile, right, online.
Where? What kind of profile?
It was like on Wikipedia, and it was listing all of these things, like why he's problematic and what. And like I knew that because I briefly followed what was happening because I wanted him expelled from Congress just because he did not deserve to be there. And there was like back and forth with him. Initially, they told him that he can stay, and then finally they voted and got him out. But he got indicted by the feds, and it's so much happening from the day he got elected, right?
Mm.
So when he got elected, there was news reports started coming out saying how he lied on his resume. But I mean, like, not embellished it a little bit. Like, claimed companies that he never worked for, claimed positions that he never been in, said that he was like a vice president of an organization when he was like an independent contractor. Said he worked for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, and he never did. From there, they just started pulling the thread, and this whole story unravels, right? So he claimed that he was Jewish from a Holocaust survivor, said that his grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, which ended up not being true because his family came from Brazil.
What
They
the
were
hell is
Catholic.
going on?
He said his mother was on the ground when 9/11 happened, but she was in Brazil when 9/11 happened. Like, just everything with him, you couldn't figure out if it's fiction or if it's reality. Eventually, they discovered that he was committing some credit card fraud by stealing credit card information and then illegally charging the people that donated money to him. He just
Mhm.
kept charging and charging and charging. And then all of the money from the campaign that he had, he, as I mentioned, like he blew it on like luxurious trips. He spent like a couple of thousands of dollars at Ferragamo, did, lip fillers,
Keep talking
all.
dirty. Keep talking dirty to
I
me.
know. Yeah, he like, I think it was like he spent like a few $1,000s at Sephora.
My man. I don't know if I blame him.
You can't make this shit
Man,
up, I swear.
man,
Um,
sometimes you be weak. You know what I
I know.
mean? Oh
So,
man.
anyways, he finally gets in front of the congressional committee. They review his finances, and the House was like, all right, we got to vote on this dude. And they vote and they expelled him, right? And so
Mm.
he leaves. The same year he got elected, the same year he left the office. All right. And so he's the first Republican ever to be expelled from Congress, and only like sixth member, I think, of all times to be pushed out like that. Crazy, right? But where I was going with this is he, since then, launched like his online persona trying to make money, and he started Cameo account,
Okay.
and people could pay him to wish them happy birthday or whatever. So Jimmy Kimmel made fake accounts and
No.
requested
Amazing.
that he requested George Santos to say like the most ridiculous things, and he made a whole segment on Jimmy Kimmel Live called "Will George Santos Say It?"
Oh my God.
It is on YouTube. It is amazing. I highly recommend it if you need a good laugh, because the things that he
What?
asked him to say.
Yeah, what was it about though? Like, what was he asking him to comment on?
Oh, he purchased like dozens of videos, but essentially, like, it was, hey, tell my can you tell my wife to call me? She still blames me that I set the shed on fire, but I was just trying to kill the bear. And so he gives them like ridiculous names. It's like, and
More,
so,
more, more Bart Simpson
yeah,
inspo, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then like George Santos comes up, and if you like know him, he's openly gay, and he has like these lip fillers, and he's just like, "Hi, I'm George," and he just like goes into this just fake ass persona. He just did too many. Like, hey, can you wish my cousin or congratulate her on passing her driving test, even though she's legally blind. Everybody told her that, that she's not gonna do it, but she proved everybody wrong because she's very strong. But also, can you wish her like happy recovery because the day after she got her license, she got into a bad accident.
What? Oh, I
And
gotta watch that.
yeah, I can send it to you, and I can definitely post them in our episode
This guy's gonna
information.
make money. It's proven that he's got a lifestyle, he's got a support. So if he's got to do it, he's got to speak to a blind driver. He's gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly. But I that's exactly what we're talking about here. You pay them and give them a script to read, and they
Yeah.
read it. They don't question it. They don't they don't do any research. They're like, is this a prank? Is this a scam? Is this or that? None of that, right? And so this dude just made dozens of videos, and now he's suing Jimmy Kimmel, and like he keeps
Oh,
talking about it on Jimmy Kimmel Live and making fun of it, which is exactly what he should be doing, because the dude is like a complete idiot. You know,
I love
that's
it.
that's the state of it.
But I feel like this just sets the stage for this to keep happening because people want money, especially people that want to stay relevant. And so this is really an avenue for them to do that, to rake that money in, and another revenue that they can capitalize on. So I just feel like this is going to keep happening, maybe on a different level, but I mean, they're just going to keep getting in trouble. And a lot of people just do it to fuck with people.
Yes, I you just you can never be sure
No.
what's real on the internet, and that's
Yes.
really the problem.
At the end of the day. But now, I mean, like when you're doing this and it involves politics, that's pretty big.
Yeah, because this can literally sway elections in insert country, right? It doesn't have to be Russia or Ukraine or Moldova in this case that we were talking about, but this can happen to any of the countries in the world.
These people, they receive these Russians receive call to action, and that's a dangerous thing. They're in the middle of a war. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, and there, I think from some reports that I read, there is Russian President Vladimir Putin is not as popular as he perceives himself to be
Mhm.
in Russia, especially with younger Russians. They're not very pleased with him. A lot of women are not pleased with him because a lot of men were mobilized and had to go, and they're still fighting the war. And so there's definitely some
Unrest.
unrest, exactly. When you have that happening, and we're talking about Russia, who is a very, they live under constant censorship, they live under dictatorship, their information is given to them on a very controlled level. But if they can persuade them with these celebrities, then that's a very easy thing to do because they control what they see on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, on insert social media platform, right? Because that's the state law over there.
Mhm.
And so you don't have the free access to the news outlets, and a lot of Western websites are banned in Russia.
Yeah, I
So
could see that.
you can't really see what is happening in Ukraine. A lot of Russians right now think that what the Russians are doing, Russian military is doing in Ukraine is a military exercise. They
Yes.
think there was a whole, and I know this from a verified source that lives in Russia for a very long time. He told this to me and my cousin before the war started, that there is a huge propaganda that was being pushed by the Russian media saying how Ukrainians are forming these like Nazi groups, and that the Russians were fighting against the Nazis.
What?
And they're pushing this propaganda in Russia, saying how Ukrainians are Nazis, and they want Russians gone.
I think eventually, okay, so they tell those stories, but eventually people can get around their limited media because, you can't keep them in that bubble forever, right? And so this is a new tactic by that government to say, okay, well, they might not put their absolute trust in us anymore. So let's try something new. Let's reach out to these
Oh
American
yeah.
celebrities and like do this fucked up prank thing that people will believe because it's I mean, who's going to think it's us? Like
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely. I
it's
mean,
crazy.
in the first year, I guess, of the war in Ukraine, there were several Russian news outlets who were trying to publish the truth, who went on TV and protested live, trying to show broader
Mhm.
audience what was happening, and they got jailed, they got sentenced, they got killed, their houses got burned. Range of things were happening, right? To say that fear they're ruled by fear is an understatement,
Right.
right? But if you're giving them this like little piece of entertainment
Mhm.
mixed with the political message, then
Mhm.
it makes everything okay.
Dirty tactic.
I will say this again and again. It is use the same tactics are used here in United States by both parties, but
Mm.
also by foreign parties. We touched up on TikTok, especially how there might be some Chinese propaganda that is being pushed to us. I firmly believe, remember we talked about a few months ago about the bin Laden letter that went
Yes.
viral on TikTok. I 100% believe that was pushed by one of the foreign governments into our feeds
Right.
to make our American youth displeased with the current
Yeah. Ca-
administration.
Cause unrest, man.
Yes, exactly.
Man, this was a good topic.
I feel like you didn't know where I was going to take this.
No, I had no clue, but it was very insightful for me and it gave me a different perspective on things, especially with how governments are involved. I like in like this entertainment platform, how it got used as a weapon, basically. So it's crazy to me, but I'm glad that we talked about it because I otherwise would have glazed over that headline and been like, I don't know, something's going on with Cameo, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was interesting and that it caught my attention. I was like, I think we can make a good podcast out of this.
Yeah. I really I think that it was enjoyable to kind of unpack a little bit and it's kind of puts you on notice to kind of pay more attention to those things.
Yeah, and I think it was a lighter topic than what we have covered in the last few
You
weeks.
you know it. I like it when it seems like tea. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning into today's episode. We hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. Don't be shy. Reach out to us on your favorite social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, wherever you lovely people hang out online. You can also drop us an email at nyabpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. Thanks again for listening. And be sure to join us again next week for more discussion. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Claudia. Bye, everyone.
Bye.